learners, greetings learners. I am Mr. Stembele Matoti from St. John's College, but I come to you today as the Deputy Chief Marker for the Geography Paper 1 NSC exams DBE. Welcome to the Eastern Cape Department of Education broadcast studio. Today's lesson will focus on a section of geomorphology, particularly referring to river capture, often referred to as stream piracy. Okay, here are the concepts to master before we get to the actual river capture. Number one, you need to know something about altitude, which is the height above sea level. Now, this is very, very important because river capture is dependent on altitude. One of the rivers must be at a higher altitude and the other one must be at a lower altitude. How do you define river capture? That's usually the very first question in the question paper. Just to make sure you get the concept right, okay? River capture is when one stream steals the waters of another stream, okay? Now, this is just a concept. I can't expect you to regurgitate this word for word in the exam. But the concept is that there is one river that gains water from another river. In essence, there is one river that loses water to another stream. Now, whether it is river capture or river piracy or river capture as in stealing, you can play around with the words. But what is very, very important is when the question is river capture and you are asked to define it, don't say river capture is when the river captures, because we are going to say you are repeating the question. Find a way of explaining the capture part of it and the stealing of the water part of it. Don't regurgitate and don't repeat the question, okay? And then we have spoken about that. The next concept is headward erosion. How do you define headward erosion? It's when the tributary or the main river erodes backwards from the source. Remember, the source is also called the head of the stream. So if it erodes backwards, it is headward from the head backwards, headward erosion. Okay? This is a fluvial process. Okay? So there is action of water and there's the action of erosion. Now, headward erosion, fluvial action, means the river actually gets longer because from the head it erodes backwards. It gets longer. And inevitably, the drainage basin also gets bigger because the longer the stream, it gives you a bigger drainage basin. Drainage basin being the total area drained by the river and its own tributaries. Now, when you are doing river capture or river piracy, you've got two streams. You've got to determine which one is active in headward erosion. Because if you cannot determine that, then you won't be able to discuss the process. Remember, we want the process as well. What happens after the other? What happens after this? What happens after that? Okay? And then the watershed. Remember, these are concepts that we start with when we deal with geomorphology, particularly the part with drainage. Okay? But the watershed is the high-lying area between two adjacent drainage basins. Yes, you may miss adjacent, no problem with that. But it's the high-lying area between two adjacent drainage basins. If you're given a figure, this will be shown on the figure and it will be shown using symbols. And those symbols are very important because if you are asked to draw the drainage basin after river capture and you miss drawing that watershed, you are going to lose marks for that. So please make sure you very, very much strongly stick to what is shown on the figure and also try to articulate the after. Remember, we'll most likely give you the before, and you are going to give us the after, okay? Now, let us get to the gist of the matter. You have now mastered the concepts. Now, let's see what happens. Here are two streams. You've got stream A here, and you've got stream B there. At this moment, learners often make a mistake of talking about the capture stream and the captured stream. At this moment, we don't have that. We just have stream A and stream B. Whether it is captured or captured, it will emerge later after the whole process has been completed. So at the moment, we don't have the capture stream and we don't have a capture stream, okay? Now let us look at our top left corner of the screen, okay? How occurred refers to the actual process, okay? So we'll try to integrate the whole information as we move along, okay? River A is at a lower level, okay? So the moment you are told that River A is at a lower level, you know then that River A is the one that is going to gain water, because water does not go up the mountain, but water comes down the mountain. So River A being at a lower level, it means the other river is at a higher level and the water is going to come down the valley or come down the watershed into the other river that is at a lower level. So the question of altitude is crucial. In fact, my dear students, without the difference in height, nothing is going to happen. So that stream A must flow at a lower level, and then stream B must be at a higher level. Secondly, stream A must be more energetic, okay? Remember, there's headward erosion that we need to talk about, okay? That is linked to the energetic nature of the stream, okay? So stream A will have headward erosion. Headward erosion is more effective and enhanced by more energy in the stream, meaning there you have got more velocity, meaning the water flows faster, and also the capacity of the stream is bigger, so you've got more volumes of water, okay? So headward erosion, more energy, and more volume. So the stream is stronger. That is why we are talking about energetic and then headward erosion, okay? And then the other point is stream A will cut through the watershed. Let's see. Look at that, okay? Look at that. That is headward erosion. The stream is eroding from the head backwards, cutting through the watershed, okay? And then River A, which is this river here, intercepts the waters of River B, which is River B here. At this point, my dear learners, remember that River A flows at a lower level, okay? And River B is at a higher level. Remember, my dear learners, that at this point where stream A intercepts the waters of stream B, there will be a diversion, meaning the water will be changing direction. So the water comes down from stream B and then changes direction to stream A, because stream B is higher and stream A is lower. So that diversion means the waters from stream B will no longer flow in a normal way. They will change direction. In essence, the water has been stolen from stream B to stream A. Okay? Now, what it means here is that stream A is now gaining water and stream B is now losing water. It is also at this point, my dear learners, that you can start talking about A being the captor stream and B now being the captured stream, and B being the captured stream. So you start talking about these two concepts at this point. not before the actual interception. Okay? Now, the point at which the waters of A intercept the waters of B, that point where the water is actually diverted gets to be called the elbow. There you are, my dear learners, the elbow of capture, where the water turns and changes direction. The elbow of capture. You need to mark that because at some point you'll be asked to identify it. That has been the standard practice over the past 4-5 years. Okay? There's the capture stream and there is the captured stream. Three concepts now settled. Capture stream, the one that gains water. Captured stream, the one that loses water. And the point at which the waters are intercepted, meaning the elbow of capture. Okay? The stream that used to have water before the waters of River B were captured is now called the misfit stream. Remember, dear learners, that this stream used to have water, and the valley was the size of the water that was flowing there. But now the supply has been cut, and the water is too little, and the valley is too big, meaning it is a misfit stream. Now let's go back to something, so to make sure we get this right, okay? Remember we said the source of the stream is also known as the head. Hence we're talking about headward and concepts like that. So this stream can also be known as the beheaded stream because the head, the source, has been cut off. The beheaded stream, the source has been cut off, okay? The gap between the misfit stream and the elbow of capture is known as the wind gap, okay? So there'll be the elbow of capture, and then there'll be the misfit stream. That gap there is known as the wind gap. How do we see the wind gap? Remember, there was water that used to flow there. Now, in the wind gap, you will have pools of stagnant water, water that doesn't move anymore. And those pools may dry up. And when they dry up, you get river gravel, stones and river gravel. So that area is dry after the pools have evaporated, and it will have stones or pebbles, and it will also have river gravel. So you'll be at a point where you understand that there's something that is called the wind gap, and in the wind gap, you've got pools of water, and those pools of water are not permanent, they evaporate, and when they evaporate, they leave you with gravel, river gravel, and pebbles, smooth rounded rocks that are found in the wind gap, okay? Now, in the misfit, there's a particular problem. There are disadvantages that you need to know. Remember, there was a lot of water flowing through. Now there'll be a water shortage, okay? Now, farming is going to be affected negatively because you cannot farm effectively without enough water. Remember, the animals need water for drinking, and you need the water for irrigation. Fishing, aquatic life will be disrupted, okay? There won't be as much fish or fishes if you had different species in the water because the water is now reduced in volume, okay? Recreation activities will be affected. Maybe people used to go there, do some boating, bit of navigation, recreation activities. There won't be much of that because the water is now reduced. And if there were any industries that were operating there, they will not be able to operate efficiently and effectively because you cannot operate industries without water, okay? However, along the capture stream, remember now the stream has got more water, has got a higher velocity, okay? There will be increased soil fertility, meaning there are better chances of agriculture, okay? And therefore, there'll be farming. Farming will be booming and the economy will grow. A lot will be happening in that area because there's now a new life. And there's now a new life in that area. Of course, there's also the risk of flooding because there's more water that is now coming from stream B and increasing the volumes of water in stream A. Of course, with flooding, there'll also be more erosion. But there's one thing that learners often do not pick up. River A, which is the capture stream, will be rejuvenated, meaning it will regain its erosive power. It will regain its energy to erode downwards again, okay? Now, something I did not note in the slide, I thought I would talk about. Also, the drainage basin of River A will be increased. Remember, River A used to start somewhere here, but now it starts there, and the drainage basin is now increased, okay? So that is one of the outcomes of river capture, okay? Let us now talk about the landforms. These are landforms that you need to understand, okay? You need to have the capture stream, you need to know the elbow of capture, the exact place where there was interception, where the capture occurred. You need to know the misfit stream. You need to know the wind gap, okay? I did mention river gravels, pebbles, mud pools. It will have the mud pools immediately after capture, but in time, there'll be evaporation and this dry area will prevail after capture. Let us now go to the question paper, okay? I will probably not take all of those of these questions, but I'll just hit on those that I think you need to master, okay? Remember the concept? What is a watershed, okay? The high-lying area between two adjacent drainage basins, okay? Now, remember this. This is now thinking forward and trying to make sure that our learners understand the process, okay? Why? Meaning you must provide a reason. Why is the watershed not a permanent feature, okay? Remember, the watershed will be cut through by the stream that has got headward erosion. And in that process, there'll be abstraction, meaning it will also be lowered. And there'll be the shifting, meaning the peak of the watershed will not only lower, but will also shift, okay? So you need to get into the understanding of that concept as well. What does it mean when a stream erodes headwards? It means the length of the stream gets longer and the drainage basin gets increased. Keep that. It's not very usual, okay? The length of the stream gets longer and the drainage basin of the stream gets increased, okay? Give two reasons why tributary C, there's the tributary, is energetic. So you're getting a clue already that tributary C will have headward erosion, okay? Tributary C will have headward erosion. That's the clue there. Remember we said higher volume of water in the stream, and also there is more water, higher volume, more water, and that water is energetic, means it moves faster. So two things, more volume, okay? And number two, more velocity, okay? We're good there. Now, here is the trick, and we found this very, very tricky with our learners. Draw a plan view. Most learners get lost here because they don't know the angle. But the examiner is trying to give you something that is more illustrative, okay? As seen from above, okay? To show the landscape after river capture. After river capture. Meaning this is before. What you see here is before. And we need you to show us the after river capture. Meaning after C has intercepted the waters of river A. So We will have here river B, okay? And we will have here C, and C intercepts the waters of river A, and there's your misfit stream as discussed, okay? So identify at least two features of river capture, okay? So here we will have that one feature called the elbow of capture, okay? And then here we will identify one that is called the wind gap, save for the bad writing, okay? Now, remember, when you draw this figure, don't forget to show us the watershed, and that will be giving you the full marks because you have now shown us the after, the after, the after. Remember, that was the before. We now have the after, okay? Then we'll take the last question, 156. Which of the streams will become rejuvenated after river capture? Remember, rejuvenated, regaining the energy to erode downwards again, okay? So this water here has been diverted, and now river B has got more water, more energy, and therefore it means it's got more power, just regained the power to erode downwards again. So here, river B will be rejuvenated. Now let's move on to the next one, okay? Now this one I think was 2023, okay? Now you can see it's a bit more complicated, okay? But here is the same approach from the examiner before river capture. And remember, this is a figure with a key now. So there's your watershed, and you have rivers Y and river Z, okay? So you need to identify already which river flows at a lower level, and by looking at the tributaries and thinking ahead, you know now that there is something that will happen there because the tributary is positioned such that it can have headward erosion, okay? Now, I'm not going to go too deep into this one, but remember, the very first question will harp on the question of concept. What is the concept of river capture ringing in your brain at the moment, okay? It's when one river steals the waters of another river. But we wanted to see how it comes up in the question paper, okay? So here we are. State one condition needed for river capture to take place. Remember I said, without altitude differences, nothing will happen. So you need to be maybe starting there and saying river Y will flow at a lower altitude and river Z at a higher altitude. Of course, you have other conditions like river Y being more energetic, river Y having more volume of water, and river Y, particularly the tributary, being more active in headward erosion. You can also answer this question in reverse and talk about river Z being the weaker stream, river Z having less water, river Z generally flowing at a higher altitude. So it's your take. There are more points, and we need only one condition, and that will be 2 marks. More or less a giveaway if you know your story here, okay? Draw a sketch. Obviously, this is a plan view, okay? To illustrate the area after capture. Now let's see. That's why I've got my whiteboard here. There's your river Y, okay? And there's your tributary there, almost insignificant. And there's your tributary there, okay? And there's river Z, okay? That's what we know now. And there's your watershed, okay? It needs to come up in the drawing, okay? Now, this is what happens, okay? This tributary is active in headward erosion and finally intercepts the waters of river Z. Now, what happens thereafter? Look at this. Look at that, okay? we will now have this coming down here and getting intercepted, okay? And then we will have here the misfit stream. So this is what we need to see when we look at your drawing as the drawing of after capture, okay? Now let's follow what the examiner wants. The examiner wants the elbow of capture, and that's the elbow of capture, okay? Where the interception took place, the exact point where the water was diverted, okay? And the misfit stream is there. There's your misfit stream, okay? And then that is the wind gap, the area between the elbow of capture and the misfit stream. That is the wind gap, okay? So you have your 3 marks, okay? Elbow of capture, 1 mark for misfit stream, and 1 mark for the wind gap, okay? Now, we'll take the next ones and run through very, very quickly because we think they are pretty easy to get, okay? We are now doing 254. Will River Y being the stronger stream, the one that is called the capture stream, or Z, which is now the misfit or the captured stream, if you take it upwards, experience rejuvenation after capture? Obviously, River Y will be more rejuvenated because this is the one that has stolen water. It now has got more water, more volume, and more energy, okay? And then we have also tackled 255 because we had the reasons for that, okay? And then 256 wants the impact. The impact, we are now going to apply the information, the impact, and explain that. Remember, the impact will be on the capture stream, meaning stream Y. Then we said soil will be more fertile and there'll be more agricultural activities. There'll be more recreation because there's more water. There's more rejuvenation because the water will be more energetic and there's more volumes. So there is a lot that you can write there, and we only want 2 of those points to give you 4 marks. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Please do not forget to visit our website and our portal, where you go to ECDOE Broadcast Studio. And please don't forget to mention your school so that we can be able to give a shout out. Learners, we have come to the end of our lesson. You can leave your questions and comments on our comments box. Don't forget to leave the name of your school so we can give shout outs to your school. Please share, recommend, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, ECDOE Broadcast Studio. Thank you for watching. See you next lesson. Please remember, the warmer the blankets, the colder the future. Thank you very much, and good luck for your exams. There we go.